Okay, it is 7 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And we'll stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, so first item on our agenda is our March minutes and our April claim docket. Has everybody had a chance to review those two documents? Any questions?
I make a motion, we approve.
Okay, got a first motion
I'll second.
and I got a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries. For the next item on our agenda, I'm going to go ahead and skip down since we got a guest here, Kevin Hill from NFP Insurance. He's going to talk to us real quick about our insurance policy update. So Kevin, you're
Thanks.
up.
So as you guys know, insurance renews in June. Last year, you guys went through a pretty significant bid process. We had a couple different agents look at everything, and we chose Astra. Doug contacted me a couple months ago and said he talked to some of the other towns around about getting kind of a 3-year contract type situation. Most of those that happen are 3-year contracts on a gentleman's agreement. So there are no carriers that will guarantee the rates for 3 years. Cincinnati does that in the private sector. No one does that in the public sector. I would advise that most of my towns, I tell them it is a good idea when you make a switch and you're with a carrier, give them 2 to 3 years. Develop a track record with them, some consistency. If you were to go back out to market again this year, and then again next year, you would get carriers saying, "No, never mind, Kevin, we don't want to quote because we've done this, we've wasted our time, we're not going to get it, we know what's going to happen." So it would be my argument that you would stay on that basis. But in regards to that discussion, I called Asher and I said, "Hey, look, I know you can't guarantee rates, but can we go ahead and kind of take a look at where we're at?" Losses had jumped up a little bit in the last year. We were getting pretty close to a 50% loss ratio, but I was able to convince them, if you go to page 12, is it? Yeah. Page 12, I've got a comparison from last year to this year, and including a little bit of a kick in the workers' comp, so that's not Astra, that's IPEP. But the total increase is only a 3% increase. And that's really good for what we're seeing in the early stages of 2021. So from a premium standpoint, I'm happy with what we have. As far as changes go, the only change that I know of in the last year is the new sign out front. So we got that endorsed on. Astra actually waived the premium. So Doug, you were asking that one day how much it was going to be. They actually waived the premium. They said they added it from February or whenever we told them through June for no charge. So that to me is the only change that I know of, but I brought kind of a full description here of our coverages and our limits that we could go through at your leisure. You know, we're insuring on that first page, we're insuring a little over $3 million in business, personal property, and buildings, right? It's at those 5 locations, and you can see we've got a couple buildings at some, more down at the park, obviously. That $3 million does include the new sign. Right, we're still at $1,000 deductible, which I think is fine for you guys. So a lot of my towns and my private businesses, if your blanket limit, if your total insured value limit gets up to be about $5 million, I'm going to recommend we go to a $2,500 deductible. I know that can be a lot to absorb in a storm or a fire or a situation like that, but we're starting to get enough value that they're charging premium that we save enough, I think, for no more often than you have a property claim that would work. But at $3 million, I think you're good at $1,000. The next page covers all the liability limits. So again, from a town perspective, there's multiple different coverage parts that come into play. So the very first part, right, is just the general liability. Somebody falls at the park, kid gets hurt at the park, somebody trips on a sidewalk, those kinds of things. Law enforcement liability, obviously, somebody's hurt in the process of an arrest, a chase, any sort of an incident that would involve law enforcement. And you can see that is the one area where you've got 10,000 per person medical expense and 50,000 in any one accident. Those are much higher numbers than we normally see in other places, just because the proclivity for that to happen. A car chase injures multiple people. We want to be able to take care of those people and not have a lawsuit coming back at us. Public officials' errors and omissions, so that's protecting all of you right here. If there was a mistake, a problem, the town was sued, the annexation goes bad, they want somebody, brings suit against you, we would be able to step in and defend you on that. And even from a standpoint of the non-monetary defense, even if they're not asking for money, they're asking for a reversal of a decision that cost the town money, we're able to defend you or pay for those changes. And then employment practices liability, so if Jenny harasses George or vice versa, or I think that's about what we're down to. It does cover third-party liability, so it also includes vendors who may be doing things that are untoward. On your inland marine page, there's a list there of the things that we insure. We went through that list again last year. I would advise that it's probably worth going through again, just to be sure that everything listed here you have, so that we're not paying insurance on anything that you have maybe determined not to be of use. But also, just in case there was something bought there that you guys just didn't think to tell me. And the reason I say that is we just got done with a fire in Danville that involved a little Kubota that still had the snowplow and the snow spreader on the back. Right, so that's 3 different things that we've got to find in that list to pay for. Well, if they bought that snow spreader and didn't tell me and I didn't put it on the list, they may not get any money for it. I'm not saying that happened, but those are the reasons that I say it's important we look at this kind of with a fine-tooth comb and just think through, is there anything that we need to make sure is listed in terms of equipment that the guys might use to maintain the town.
What is the valuable papers? What is that?
That's kind of an old school thing. If you guys had lost town plans, original ordinances, again, valuable papers goes back to days prior to computers, where we have to recreate documents that were lost in a fire, right? And we would pay for that. We pay for the recreation of documents. I don't know that it applies as much anymore, but it's one of those coverages that got built into the inland marine coverage forever. And it's never been taken out. So it's still in there. Doesn't cost you anything because it's a built-in coverage. But most of that you're going to end up seeing off in the computer coverage, where we restore files, things of that nature.
Okay.
And yeah, computer coverage is there at the bottom, so you see we cover equipment, some software, very small deductible just in case.
Okay.
Next page is crime, and then auto. So again, we've got 50,000, which is, I'm gonna say, a fairly standard limit for 90% of the towns that I insure. We're not gonna run into a problem, I don't think, of lost money, securities, forgery or alteration that's gonna exceed that. So I'm comfortable with all of those. Your automobile, so again, another area we always look, are those still the right 4 vehicles? Kind of thing. Jenny, let's look if we got the right ones.
I don't think so.
Yep.
We just have the Ram, right? We don't have anything else. We don't have that blue truck anymore, do we? I don't think we have a Roto-Rooter anymore, though, that's over on the other page.
Okay.
So do you have an extra one of these to give to Pete so he can
I'll leave this
double
with Pete.
check
I can leave
also
this with
since
Pete.
he-
Absolutely.
He's our
we
maintenance
need it.
department
I
head,
don't think we have the Roto-Rooter
and
anymore.
he
Yep.
can,
We sold that long.
I mean, he knows what's in that building over there
Perfect.
Yeah.
better than anybody.
And then that last page, you got the $4 million umbrella, which again gets us to the $5 million statutory limit that a town can be sued for. Federal can go higher than that, but again, there's a point at which we're buying too much insurance, if you will. We're spending money that we don't need to spend. And then your last 2 pages, your work comp and your accident and sickness, no changes in those. Work comp obviously covers Pete, George, Jenny, any employee who is paid The accident and sickness covers your reserves since they are unpaid. That takes care of them if they were to get hurt in the line of duty, and prevent an obligation on behalf of the town.
I did have one question for you, Kevin.
Yep.
Which, I mean, this might take more investigation on your part. In the process of looking for a new town manager, it was brought up about the Indiana code saying that the town manager has to take out a performance bond.
Correct.
And what the other town managers in Hendricks County have talked to me about is they don't require a performance bond because the State Board of Accounts has said if there's a crime policy in your insurance plan and it specifically mentions that it's endorsed for faithful performance as the bond,
Correct.
then that can replace that.
Correct.
So I didn't know if that crime coverage is enough, or do we need to address that later on? I mean, obviously.
Yeah, so
that
right now,
has-
we have a bond in place that covers all of you, and it would have covered Dan, and it would cover the future. Okay, so
Okay.
I think each of you are at 5, and I think the town manager is at 5. State Board of Accounts is very strict on what is required of a clerk treasurer, and a couple other positions. Town councils and town managers, it's somewhat silent, right? So we're looking at anywhere between 5 and 10 that we bond that for. I can certainly ask Astra if we can endorse the faithful performance on what that cost would do for the crime policy, and then compare that to what that bond is, and then shoot you guys a group email back as to which route you would want to go on that.
Okay, yeah, because that would be helpful for, I mean, if and when we get to the point of hiring a full-time. I know Pete being brought on as a part-time town manager, we just wanted to make sure that we're meeting all the
Yep.
appropriate requirements from the law. And I know that the, other town managers here in Hendricks County had all said, yeah, we worked it out by checking with the State Board of Accounts, and they allow this kind of a thing to happen.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
but I didn't know how that worked for you.
Yeah, let's just, and to me, it's 6 of one, half dozen of another, whether you do it in the bond or in the faithful performance. So it all comes down to maybe cost, right? If carrier will do it and that cost is less than the bond, it's fine to include it in there,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, if you'll let us know that. Any other questions for Kevin on this so far? Thoughts or?
We're good to tell Astra and IPEP to go ahead with these pending changes from Pete on vehicles and trucks? Or vehicles and equipment, or, yeah, inland marine equipment.
And so, one of the things that I was looking at with just talking to other town managers in the area is that they tend to get that 3-year contract with an insurance carrier, and they don't rebid every year, and it makes it kind of saves headaches, makes it so that it's more palatable to the different insurance
Correct.
agents and so on and so forth. But it's up to what you guys think about that idea. So, any questions on that?
Could we get if we do that and don't rebid it, could we get you to come in every year and kind of review everything back all over again?
Absolutely, yeah, we absolutely are gonna continue to be here. It's just a matter of expressing to the carrier, we're gonna stick with you for 3 years, we want you to stick with us for 3 years, right, and not ding us on the rates.
Right, and so then at that time, would we also be able to, like if you saw something or we had something that came up that previous year, maybe we need to make a change?
Right.
Is that a whole new process, or is
Nope.
that just adding something in?
We just add it.
Okay. I like that idea.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
Anything else?
Well, then I'll do this, I'll leave this with Pete, and then I'll follow up with him, and Jenny, and make sure that we've got all those things kind of ironed out. Anything that changes premium wise here, and of course the bond thing, I'll email back to you. And as soon as then we have approval on that, we'll go ahead and issue the renewal and send the invoices. and we'll be ahead of the game for June 8th.
Will that require a vote in May from us, Graham, as far as,
I think you can just give consent to allow them to proceed at this point.
okay. All right, I guess that's,
Okay. I'll leave this with Pete then.
consensus to, excellent, thank you very much.
And I'll be back. I'm gonna run, I'll email you and Jenny at this point, and then we'll let you guys disperse those to the group if you want.
Okay,
All right? Thanks.
thank you. All right, next item on the agenda, we have the capital asset management plan proposal from Baker Tilly. Just a little document here. I assume they have a totals page at the back here. So last month we talked about them basically taking, all of the town's capital assets and putting them in a tracking software, right? They're gonna put this in a software program for us, and that'll allow town leaders like Jenny or the deputy clerk treasurer, the town manager, those of us on the board to continually update it, keep an eye on what our capital assets are doing, and whether or not we need to replace capital assets or keep maintenance on them, those kinds of things. So this agreement is just the initial, we're contracting with Baker Tilly to allow them to start that process. That's what it looks like here. Is that your understanding, Jenny?
Yeah, I think is there a hourly rate on there somewhere?
There is these are per hour. So the partners, principals, and directors, they're gonna charge us between $240 to $500 an hour. Managers are $200 to $325 an hour. Senior consultants $150 to $250 an hour. Consultants $135 to $200 an hour. Municipal bond disclosure specialist $120 to $190 an hour. Support personnel $110 to $150 an hour. And interns $90 to $110 an hour. So that's how much they bill us. But they, in their proposal verbally, they told us it would be between 5 to 10,000. Did they give us a, like, it's definitely gonna stop at 10,000? I mean, they're not gonna go over that?
He said he didn't think it could get up to 10,000.
Okay.
Was this something that the state wanted us to do? Is
State
that,
and the towns, yeah, after the audit.
Yeah. Part of our internal controls help
Are,
keep track of.
are we required to asset tag things at that point? To physically asset tag things that they have in the database?
I don't know if that's gonna be a requirement or not. I suppose that would be up to us if we wanted to
I didn't
do
know.
that.
I was curious.
I don't know.
I know what you're talking about. Like, we have them at the
Yeah.
hospital. All of our
Yeah,
equipment has got a tag stuck on it with a number. And
right.
I don't know.
Something to check out, I guess.
this agreement here is just simply, we're saying go ahead and start the work to get that software built and add in all our assets.
The state's kind of forcing our hand at that, so.
At something, they didn't say we had to do Baker Tilly's program, but with what we looked at between February and March, this was commensurate to what other companies were gonna charge also.
Graham, that's not something that we have to have like 3,
You know, cause it's, professional services. You can kinda pick and choose whoever you want. You could, if you wanted to, request those, but you don't have to.
What do you need from us, Doug?
Looks like we. Looks like they're just wanting my signature, so I guess I would just want a consensus that you guys want us to go forward with this, I guess. So, you okay with that?
go forward.
Thumbs up?
Yeah.
Thumbs up? Okay. Alright, we'll go ahead with this. Okay, next thing on the agenda, ordinance concerning the late fees, which I have a copy here from Graham. And so this is it's designed to, and again, another thing that the audit that we had, flagged, the number of times we paid late fees out. And they said, if you could try to avoid that, it would make your next audit look better. So we worked with Graham to put that together. And this allows the clerk, treasurer, and the deputy clerk treasurer to pay bills even before if it's in the earlier parts of the month, to pay that before asking permission, and then they would just present to us what got paid and how much and to who, with you called it a detailed invoice would be supplied also.
I mean,
That would basically say, here's proof that we would have paid a late fee if we hadn't paid this. Any questions from anybody else?
Agree with that.
All right, so this one does need, because it's an ordinance, would need a motion and a vote.
I'll make a motion to accept.
All right, the first,
Second.
second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, ordinance passes. Alright, next one on our old business is noise ordinance, and Graham gave me 2 copies of the proposed noise ordinance. Do you wanna real quick describe the difference between the two? And
the one difference is that one of the ordinances has a subsection C that has some restrictions on when you can use lawn mowers, leaf blowers, those sorts of noise-making equipment that people might use around the house. I'd mentioned that at last meeting, and there was a little discussion about that, but I didn't know whether you wanted me to include that language or not. So one of them has it, one of them doesn't have that. And then the big change is that working with Matt, we cleaned up some of the exceptions. The previous draft was a little confusing. It had a lot of different hours. This basically just says if it exceeds 90 decibels, 10 feet from the property line, that's violation. And my suggestion is that we just want to make sure that we think through whether that threshold is appropriate for the issues that the town's having with noise. I haven't measured 90 decibels, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't know what that sounds like.
Are there fines
Yes.
in it?
Yeah, and so we would need to publish this within 30 days after you pass it for it to become a $10,
Second,
because there's
there's 500.
fines associated with it.
Would there be a public hearing along with that, or just a
You know, we-
publishing it
just
for 30
publish.
days in case we get public comments in that 30 days?
And it's just to provide notice to the public that it's been passed.
Okay.
I think we
We're
would probably
making them aware of it, yeah.
post it on the website.
Facebook. I think it would take care of some of the issues we've been having. I don't know that, like, you either way on the lawnmowers and stuff.
Well, and as you said last month, this is for your department. This is going to be mostly a reactionary enforcement where somebody calls and says,
Gives
"This
us the
is going
ability
on."
to take action if needed.
Right. So
Nothing
you're
that we're
not
gonna
gonna
go.
you're not gonna
I'm not gonna walk up down the
to-
sidewalk with the noise meter. This little meter.
Just because it's in there doesn't mean you have to enforce it.
Right. It just gives us the ability to take action, because that's what we're running into. The residents say, there's nothing you can do about it, I can play my music at 2 AM as loud as I want. So. That's where this would come into play and prevent that.
Okay. So the does anybody need me to read the section on the lawnmowers, or you guys all had a chance to look at that? Okay.
I mean, that could be an issue if you got somebody mowing and we get a complaint at midnight and they're mowing their yard and somebody's trying to sleep, I don't know.
There was a complaint a couple years ago, I think, about that.
There was, yeah. I vaguely remember that,
I
that we
remember.
did have some issues with
Yeah.
the mowing in the middle of the night.
All right. So what do we want to do, folks? We got a motion on one of these.
So, yeah, I'll make a motion to, advance the noise ordinance.
Is that with or without the mowing?
Mower. We
Oh.
call the with the mower and without the mower.
With the mower.
With the mower.
Yeah.
The consensus on we want the one with the mower.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So turn the without the mower upside down. All right. I need a motion.
I make a motion to forward the noise
Okay.
ordinance
With the mower. Very good. And second.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed. Okay. We'll
Hey,
publish
they
that.
get filed, if we have violations, that file through Plainfield Court, like we do our,
We can, yeah.
yeah.
I think,
Because we can file our traffic ordin, or, traffic violations outside of 39, but
So we'll vote on that the next
don't know.
meeting?
have you ever done that? Well, in Plainfield
Traffic?
Court?
some traffic, yeah. Anything that doesn't occur on 39 can be filed in Plainfield.
I know I talked to them one time, they said you could.
I hope I never have to go to that, but
All right. So Leanne asked about the noise ordinance. Or do we have to vote on that again next month? And my understanding is no. That we've voted on it now. We publish it for 30 days before it actually takes effect.
Right, and so, I mean, technically, you're supposed to introduce it and then in one meeting, then pass it the next meeting, but the statute says that if the members present unanimously consent to hear it at the same meeting, that it's introduced, that you can pass it on the same meeting. And so, I mean, you've all voted in favor of it, so it's essentially, you've consented to hear it at the same meeting. But if you would like, we could break that into 2 meetings.
Well, what happens if we voted on it and we publish it and then we have people come in and being like, I don't like this, or you need to change this? or-
Well, the publication only happens after it's already been passed by you. They don't, this is not a situation where they have a public hearing and an opportunity to influence your
Okay,
decision before.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Next item on the agenda: National Youth Service Day is April 25th. So I've been working with a couple of the landscaping, lawn care folks in the area. Jim Davis, is it? He's called Lawn Care. Jim Davis Lawn Care, or
Davis.
Lawn
Yeah.
Care. Davis Lawn Care, and Carson McCleary with McCleary Lawn Care. About doing a beautification process, cleanup and planting of some plants, trees, that kind of stuff. So I actually had a friend who donated almost 30 trees to me. So that I thought that was kind of nice that her significant other works for the Arbor Day Foundation as an arborist, so he scraped together several trees, and, pawpaw trees, and butternut trees, and hazelnut trees, those kind of things. So, and then we were gonna work on other plants to be donated. You were gonna contact Cox's.
Yeah, Cox's do not donate things, but they will give us a discount.
Okay.
So,
All right. Good to know.
What kinds of things do they need flower wise? I'm not a flower guy, so.
Right, and
It's a
that's
specific question.
right. I was referring to the professionals. I don't know if Leanne can speak for Jim, but so far, like Carson has said, well, I'll look into it. So he wants to, find us a variety of options. I'm assuming Jim would want to do
yeah,
the same thing, but
yeah.
or they're
I think there are certain plants that he has found that do better than other things. Let's say geraniums. I mean, people like geraniums, but they have to be deadheaded, and there's kind of a lot of work to keeping them blooming. One of his favorites, one of our favorites, is called lantana. It's a real bright flower, but it's an annual thing that you'd have to plant every year. But they are easy care blooming type things. Lantanas. And
low maintenance is
blooming,
a good thing.
yeah,
I
yeah.
like low maintenance.
So, I know we could get some shorter blooming, like shrubbery type things, like hydrangeas, but that they're dwarf sizes that we could put like under the sign or beside the sign, so it would have a little bit of color,
Well, there
but
needs-
it would stay.
Something needs that out here too,
Yeah,
like some hostas or
Yeah.
daylilies or something that grows good.
yeah. Hostas probably wouldn't do good.
Right in the
This
center.
side, on this side, they probably
Yeah,
would,
those are
but
right
probably
in the
not the south side.
Mhm.
He also said on some of the trees that you want to watch, like the pawpaw tree and the persimmon tree. Those things can get pretty messy when you're mowing. And so he said, you want to watch some of those, that you don't just plant them like out in the middle of a field, because those pawpaws, I think, they have that really long seed pod that comes off of them, and they're just awful on lawnmowers. So he's like, make sure that we plant those closer to like the edge of the property or something like that, so that it doesn't make a big mess. But I mean, there's just stuff that has to be fine tuned or whatever. But I think you've got a good start there.
All right. And so my hope is to keep talking to the youth pastor at the church about the group that's going to be involved, and then maybe put out some things on the Facebook page and the website as we get closer, asking for other donations from people in town to just we can pick a specific type of plant that we put out a request for, and then those can be brought in, and that day we'll just clean up and plant a few of these plants or flowers and trees. Probably the trees would probably be better down at the park rather than here. but then plants
Mm-hmm.
along our north side around the sign.
Yeah.
So the 25th is a Sunday, is that right?
Is it? I thought it was
April,
maybe
April 25th?
the 20. It's actually the National Youth Service days is 23, 24, and 25. I was thinking just on the 24th do our thing, but
24th?
sorry if I said the 25th. I apologize.
What is it, 20?
The 24th is a
24th.
Saturday, so I was thinking if we gathered here at 9:30 and started our work and moved to the park and did some more stuff there as well.
Didn't you say they're picking up trash?
Yeah, we're gonna try and just clean up some of the trash as well. I know we don't have a ton of trash around the town hall, but sometimes it picks up as things happen with wind blowing stuff down here. But yeah, so we'll need some, trash bags. I have several of those, like extension things to pick stuff up off the ground with, and so Rule King had a whole box of them for like $1 a piece, so I grabbed 6 of them or so you can hand those out to people. All right, anything else on National Youth Service Day? As we get closer, we'll put those things out on our Facebook and our website.
Are we gonna have, do you have mulch delivered?
I haven't
they-
asked for that yet. I can. Carson mentioned mulch application, so I can ask him again on what
I know,
his idea
I
is.
think
for
last year, didn't we have, had a whole truckload, yeah. Do you do that every year,
No.
Pete? No? Okay.
Most of that went into the playground last year. When we extended it and then
Uh-huh.
added to it.
Okay.
Did we get that from someplace, or did we make that ourselves from the?
No,
trees
Dan had it delivered.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure it was over by Danville and over
The
there.
green.
Greendale,
Need
Greendale
something.
McCarty.
Yeah.
So we can look into doing that. If I'll ask Mr. McCleary what, how much he thinks we need or something, and then we can get some mulch.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna do something along the side of the building, you don't wanna just plant those flowers or bushes or whatever in the middle of a grassy area. You probably wanna clean all that out and
Right.
probably
Now, if you just want
actually make it a bed.
nothing
Yeah.
else for here, for this area right here, the town hall,
Uh-huh.
I can get it in the pickup. Go down there and get a pickup load. That'll be enough, won't it?
Yeah, I would think so, but
Okay. All right, we can do that. Thanks. All right, anything else on that? Next item on the agenda, employee handbook and internal controls. So part of the internal controls, stuff that the state board of accounts has, kind of in their guidelines, are to have standards that employees have to meet. So it's this draft that I sent to everybody on email it's a pretty extensive, complicated draft. But if anybody has any questions on stuff, or if we want to dig through it some more, we can. But I didn't know if anybody had any, initial questions about, why are we doing this, or why was this mentioned in there? No?
No.
Did anybody have any, did you think it was a useful handbook initially, or? I know employee handbooks aren't like everybody's favorite thing to read through. I know your first day at any job, they hand you this book and everybody goes, okay, thank you. But
I didn't read the whole thing.
we can look at it some more over the next couple of months. Again, it doesn't have to be, anything decided today. The internal controls also is just, again, a complex matter. I don't want, us to go, extended period of time without addressing our internal controls. I don't know if everybody's aware, but when we signed our paperwork to close for Indiana Finance Authority's the SRF loan, they said, by the way, you're going to get audited every 2 years for the entire duration of this loan. So, all the things that they pointed out in the last audit, I'd like to have fixed before the next audit. And so internal controls policy that we've adopted and enacted as one of those things that they deemed us for, so that we don't have any internal controls right now.
Okay.
And I know the draft I sent you is different than the one that Jenny sent us, so I didn't know if anybody had any comparisons or thoughts on preferences, which ones they like better.
I didn't realize that we had 2 different ones sent. So I'll need to review.
Okay. Yeah, just so you know, Jenny emailed one to us a couple of months ago. There was a sample that she got. The one that I got was also off the State Board of Accounts website. They have 2 samples on there, and so I just changed the names to protect the innocent on that one that I downloaded. But
Okay.
okay, we can table that and address it again after we've had a chance to look at both of those. Next item on the agenda, door-to-door solicitation forms. Leanne, you were going to look at some our ordinance.
Yes, and I emailed that just a little bit ago, actually, to everybody. So it's like 16 pages or something, I think. So I thought maybe we could just table that until the next time when everybody has a chance to look at all of this.
Okay. We passed it back in 2017. And did the solicitor that we had come through? Oh, never called back. All right.
So what I sent was actually ordinances from Whitestown and I think Fishers.
Oh, sorry.
And they kind of
Oh, it did say what?
have
Sorry.
basically the same thing. There's fees and penalties and then actually there's one that I found that was Fort Collins, an application. So that if somebody wanted to go door to door, they had to actually fill out an application.
Oh, okay. So none of these are actually from our current ordinances.
No, this is
So we don't
just,
have-
Whitestown, Fishers, what else?
yeah.
Okay.
And then this Fort Collins actually has an application for a permit, so that somebody could come in and pay a fee and be able to go. But then, there's,
We would need to pass a,
yeah,
How
I'm
much that
sure
would
we'd
be?
have to,
yeah. $50 application.
All right. If everybody could take a look at that email over the next month and email back any of your thoughts to the rest of us, and we can table it until May. All right, next item on the agenda for old business, Chief Oliphant, the police policy procedure manual.
So I got a quote, for them to do the whole manual, me working with them, it probably would take a couple months to get it done. It's 2458.20, and I thought that was like just for 1 year. That's an annual cost, but that includes the constant revisions. Any type of case law that's updated, they send it to us automatically. Once you get it developed though, the first year is your manual. You just don't get the updates anymore. So I really suggest we do at least 1 year to get the base done. And like I said, then we own it, we just don't get the updates. So if there's new case law or new best practices come down, we wouldn't necessarily get those revisions. But if we just did the 1 year, we would actually have a good base then.
How do you get them now?
As far as the case law,
Case law and
from the prosecutor usually, they'll cover some stuff, but that's about as far as we can get, whatever they
But
send.
you have to go to them and get it, or is it something
They have
just
meetings.
send out?
No, they have meetings usually, and they'll do prosecutor updates as well too, but this company covers, for Indiana, any changes, that they send it out. So, like I said, I think it would be good to get 1 year, at least get the base done, and then we own it, so we just wouldn't necessarily have the changes. It definitely is gonna be way more current than what we have now.
So the yearly cost is the same even
Right.
in your initial year
Right.
of.
Right, so again, for that yearly cost, you get the updates and you also get every officer will have an account, and I could send out like a monthly training, and then they would have to review certain policies, answer questions if they read it, just confirming that they're familiar with the policies. That's what you would lose out on if you don't redo it. So,
Not like a contract or anything, is it? You can do it on literally a yearly basis?
yeah, it's a yearly. And that's my question. I said, well, if we don't wanna pay it, do we just lose the manual? And she said, no, you have it. You just won't get the services.
So what if you get it this year and then decide in 2025
You could
to
update.
pay again,
You
update
could, yeah.
in
I can manually
2030
update stuff as well, so I'll
Okay.
have access to edit, the document. So if there's stuff that comes from the prosecutor's office, I have the ability to update it
But their updates are loaded in?
automatically, yeah. Yeah, you don't have to do anything. You might have to tweak it a little bit to fit our department, but they're automatic through when you have the service.
That's like something pretty important to have.
It is, and I just talked to Kevin briefly about it, and he said that's one thing that their insurance carriers always ask for if you use one of those companies for insurance and policy procedures. So it may actually lower our rate a little bit, so we could recoup some of that cost through insurance. Because we don't have electronic version like that through a third party. Most departments, the county's going to it. I think there's a couple other agencies in the Harris County that have switched to something like this. The county is one of the big, and we get a 15% discount because we're small. And the sheriff's department's cost was way more than what we were gonna spend.
What'd you say the ballpark price was?
The quote that they gave me is $2458.20. And that includes policies and best practices. We could take off the best practices piece after the first year, and that would be a little less, because they have a combo. Policies and procedures and best practices.
Okay.
What budget fund would this come out of, Jenny, if we decided to move forward?
We
and
talked
use this?
about a technology fund that we need to kind of rename, that police technology that we have there for tasers, and switching that to police services.
Yeah, and you can always just put that amount in their budget every year for it.
Yeah. But don't you wanna switch that line item I have for like tasers and have been used for radios to
Mhm.
basically police services down the road?
Mhm.
The money's there, it just have to be transferred, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have $4,500 in the taser
Yeah.
replacement
Mhm.
fund.
I'd like to replace the taser, but I think this is more important. And it wouldn't even take all of it either, it would still give me the ability to replace one of them probably.
Yeah, you could always just transfer that to the either just town marshal supplies or
Yeah.
electronic office supplies and take care of it there. And then put it in the budget.
Next, right. Just plan for it the next time.
I'll have a better feel of what it's like too, once I get on it a year, and I can be able to have a better judge whether I think it would be beneficial to continue it every year, or just stop it for a couple of years, and then update it every 2 years, or every 3 years. But I think, again, when I've looked at the demos that you gave me, it's pretty nice. I mean, it has everything, it's all inclusive, you know, policies, procedures, and best practices.
All right, do you have any other questions from the town council on this issue? Seems like a pretty important, thing to have for an up-to-date
Yeah, it
policy
makes it
procedure
easier,
manual.
since we are a small department, and not having the time, I try to spend most of my time driving around patrolling, you know, versus sitting in here trying to work on policies and procedures. It will help me as far as that goes, with finding that time I've never been able to find to sit down and work on that. And it will take some time, and she did tell me it would take a little time to work with them, developing it to make it applicable to Clayton. So, yep.
Okay, I think it's worth, going forward and doing this, everybody else.
I agree.
From a liability perspective, definitely, I mean, you know, one lawsuit, it would pay for itself, so.
When would they want their first payment? Like, when they start the process or after they finish?
I think we'd have 30 days at least to pay it, or longer. I mean, I don't think they're gonna come asking for it right away. I
Okay,
think I'll sign the contract and then we'll have time to pay it, within reason. You know, it gives time to make the transfers and do what we need to do. I'll just explain that to them, you know, it might take a couple months to get it paid, but I don't think I'll have any issues with that.
okay.
Is that reasonable, Jenny?
Anything else?
You could
you-
always, I mean, you could always put it on the P&C charge too, and then transfer it and pay it that way, if they want the money like that.
I don't think they will.
Okay.
I don't think they will. They're used to working with government and municipalities, so I doubt that.
Okay.
They probably know that.
They're not used
They know we're
to
poor.
expediency.
Yeah, they probably know it takes a while. But most of those people I work with, those companies know that it's not quick.
All right, do we need a vote for you, Jenny, for the finances part, or?
I would just maybe do consent to allow, I think, Matt, can you present the contract to them, or just authorize one of them to, you can vote to have one of you sign it? I think it'd be better having a council member sign the contract than, Marshall.
Okay. All right, so what do,
Yep.
consensus on
I agree.
doing that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Having Doug sign it or myself?
I think
Doug.
he should sign it.
Okay.
Do you think that?
I think it should be Doug.
I mean, I can sign it for you.
It doesn't say, it
Yeah.
doesn't specify, so you could put, anybody could sign it. It just says signature, printed name, title, date. That's all I'm asking for, so.
All right, all Graham is suggesting one way or another, or?
Yeah, that would be my preference, is having a council member sign it.
Okay. All right,
Let's have John do it.
all right, so everybody's in agreement with
Mhm.
this
Yeah.
on, we're gonna move forward, and when you get your contract, just bring it to me and I'll sign it.
I have it right here, I can forward it to you.
Okay. Next item is another one for you, Chief, camera and Wi-Fi at the park.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of walking around, and I think the best place to mount a camera to view the gazebo, and it would even encompass the playground potentially, really close to the gazebo is the back of that mini barn. So I'm waiting on a quote for a couple different camera options. The one I really want, I think it may be a little too expensive, it's called a fisheye camera. I may have to do something a little different, but the fisheye camera would hit that 360 view. So I'm just waiting to kind of see our different pricing options on that. So that's kind of on hold.
Okay.
It gives it a good view, but is it real
It'd be crystal
clear where you
yeah,
can,
this
you can
technology-
tell who it is.
Jenny's seen these cameras, and this one I'm looking at is even better than the ones we have here. I mean, it's, yeah.
these
You
are-
can tell what
these
the,
are
you can
so
tell,
much better.
you can tell their face, I mean, their face, it recognizes faces. I mean, it's just, the technology's really good. So, yeah.
How much are they?
I'm waiting back because I asked for a couple different quotes from they just came out with a new fisheye camera, so I'm waiting it literally just came out like 2 weeks ago, so I'm waiting to hear back how much that one costs.
Okay.
So I'm hoping it's in a reasonable price range because
Because if we put it in the park, we can use park money,
right, that's what I was thinking.
and there's, hang on,
The cool thing about the new fisheye camera, the one they have to, I can actually move the lens electronically left and right, up and down.
there's
PTC.
7,500
Yeah,
in
yeah.
improvements.
How much?
And 10,000, 9,000 in park supplies, so.
Okay.
Are you gonna have to change the Wi-Fi down there at all?
But see, when we went to the voice over IP phone system, I moved the Wi-Fi from the park to the wastewater plant, so I'd have to get another wireless internet device for the park,
Down there, okay.
which those are like $30 a month. I'm trying to figure out what equipment, if I use the same device I used at the wastewater, or come up with something a little different as far as connectivity goes, but it'll either be a Verizon device or an AT&T device down there again,
Okay.
so. Yep, so hopefully that'll work, and again, that back of the barn is a perfect spot for it. It literally, I mean, if we get that gazebo, great. I mean, it'd be great. Even at night, I think.
It's
it would
night
have-
vision.
Yeah, I think we have just a light above it too, but I think it's so close that it would have a great view of that area. And like I said, it also encompass the playground area too.
Does it records? I
30
mean,
days, so it's a longer retention than what we have now out there. Right
Okay.
now, we have about a week because I have them on the highest definition setting. So you have different settings for as quality goes. I have it on the highest, the ones at the shelter house are on the highest setting that you can put them on.
Mhm.
They only have about a week's retention on there. This one will have a 30-day minimum retention period. So it's longer, like these are 30 days here too.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing back from you on that next month. Then. And then the next one kind of goes along with that upgrading the
So
intercom.
I found a solution for that too. That it's called it's an airphone. I don't know if you guys have heard of airphone before. So basically, it'll just be a speaker and microphone. We really don't need the camera anymore because we have the new camera on the actual porch there that covers the front door. So I'm thinking about just doing the mic and camera, so she can talk back and forth. It doesn't need video. I didn't feel like I needed video.
Okay.
The price on that, there's a couple different options. There's one that was a little bit more rugged, and that was $280. And I think the one that was less rugged was $169. So, and rugged meaning the outside unit, it could be leather or anything. I just thought that might need a little bit more rugged on the outside microphone part of it. But I think that would solve the problem that we're having as far as hearing goes and all of that. And I found these two on Amazon. You think, and that's the biggest thing you're having a problem with is them hearing you, right? Yeah.
Well, usually there's a race trash truck go by.
So I think this, I really feel like this would solve that because that's what this is made for, is made for audio, And like I said, she has the camera pulled up already, so you'd be able to see who's at the door if she had a question.
Okay. As long as Jenny's happy with it, she's the one who has to fight with it every day.
Yeah, I think the rugged one is the way, I think the rugged one's the way to go. It's a little more, but I think it's gonna last probably a little longer, just being out in the cold weather and the elements.
When I hear the doorbell ring, I put on my headphones because I know Jenny's gonna start yelling at.
I feel like reading the reviews and looking at the different options. This company's been around for quite some time, so I feel like they. So I can get that ordered as soon as possible. wanted to make you aware of it.
Okay, I think that's, anybody got any objections to that consensus?
It's
All
really,
right.
it's inexpensive. I mean, it's easy to fix solution.
All right, very good. Next on our agenda, deputy clerk ordinance.
We haven't done it, have we, Greg?
Okay,
Table.
table.
We got one more.
All right, that was easy. And then the addendum to the 2021 salary ordinance. That would include a pay increase or, well, a differential idea of pay for Pete and a differential pay for the deputy clerk treasurer. Okay, table till next month. New business. Kevin Hill's already been here. The next one is agreement with Graves Construction. Graves Construction, they're gonna work on the north tank down at the wastewater treatment plant. What exactly are they doing with that, George? They're,
We're supposed to have the meeting on, this coming Wednesday. You know how we had the other one for this one will be on Wednesday this week. It's early, like 7 to 8 o'clock meeting. Yeah,
oh, I thought it was 10,
no.
cause I was
Do you
worried
have this?
Huh?
Do you have this, the agreement?
by email. I didn't print it out also. And
I don't know if there's anything that needs to be signed on that or not.
they're gonna drain the tank, paint.
Yeah, basically, well, the draining comes on to me. That's what I've leaned back onto GRW to make sure, but that part of it is not quite clear how that's gonna happen. It looks like I'm gonna be draining it, which I need to anyway, cause I gotta start up the other two tanks. So I'll drain it. It's the cleaning part, who's gonna do the cleaning. Septic has agreed that they could, for a service, they'll wash it down, clean it out, and get rid of all the excess crud and stuff that'll be in the bottom of that. Or did we already pay for that through the loan that we've got? So he's gonna sort that out and let me know. But the meeting, yes, next, Thursday or Wednesday, 14th, 7 to 8 o'clock.
Okay, I thought for sure it was 10 o'clock because I was worried if it went 2 hours I'd be
Yeah,
late for work, but
I was surprised they did that. I'll speak to him again on Monday, he's out of town,
yeah.
and when he gets back in Monday, we're supposed to chat. But anyway, the job is totally drain the tank, sandblast it, paint it, fix the broken stuff on it, and get it back up and running.
Okay. Next one, the wastewater treatment plant application. I think I had that basically looped in with the Ochre grant part. Where their GRW is moving forward with their preliminary engineering report for the basically contract B, which is the wastewater treatment plant. So they'll apply to SRF for that remainder balance, hopefully getting the subsidization and buy down, and then Okra will then apply, our grant administrator, Klein Peter Consulting, they'll apply to Okra for that $700,000 grant that can go and apply towards that as well. But those will happen in June for the preliminary engineering report from GRW to SRF as far as the application goes, and then October will be when we apply for the Ochre grant. That's the second phase of the year. Mike Kleinpeter called me earlier last week and he thought we were going to try and apply for the Ochre grant from the first round, which means next month they would have to have that application in. And I said we're not ready to do that because if he said if we commit to the Okra grant application, you have to commit to the other part. And I said, well, if we don't get the buy down, we're hosed because we will not be able to pay for it. So that's all. I just wanted to update everybody on that. Any questions on how that process is working? Mr. Fleck from HWC Engineering, who does our pavement asset management plan, called me last week. He was asking about the community crossing matching grant for streets and sidewalks and the like. So I told him that we can't do an application for a grant for this year because we didn't budget for the matching part of the grant. And there was just some uncertainty about whether or not the Department of Transportation was even going to do the CCMG for this year. So we're looking at applying in 2022, which means in the next budget process that we go through, we'll have to put in money for the budget process. Something that I didn't know about community crossing matching grants is not only can you address streets and sidewalks, you can also address stormwater. While community crossing matching grants won't pay for sewer, stormwater drains can be. And so Pete and I have discussed the oddity of the storm drains being in the middle of the road over here on Western, because the road's kind of angled down to a V in the middle where the storm drains are at, and that ends up causing problems when he's plowing snow or other things that are going on. It just creates, so my thought is that the next application is that we ask HWC to include at least those storm drains on Western, to move them from the middle of the road off to the side of the road and have less problems with that. It's just such a bizarre kind of street there, but
It rains really hard, it creates issues too.
yeah.
Floods that middle of the road now.
But as we get closer to that, they'll also they'll come out and do an assessment on our they call it a needs rating. So in order to apply for the grant, you have to have kind of a rating threshold that you're trying to replace. So they won't give you a grant if your road is rated an 8 or a 9 or a 10. Those are really good roads. So you need a rating of lower than that. But he didn't think we'd have a problem with some of the roads that he's been on here in Clayton anyway. But he says there's definitely some that will meet the threshold for that. But they'll do an assessment of that and then tell us, here's the roads that you have, here's the ratings, which ones do you want to address in this cycle. So we would just have to come up with a number that we want to shoot for. Any questions on that? Community crossing matching grant. All right, next item on the agenda is the American Rescue Plan Act funds, ARPA as they've been calling it. There were 2 webinars that I attended last week. One put on by Baker Tilly, the one Barnes and Thornburg, and basically there's a whole lot of I don't know what's going to happen yet because they haven't defined it. Similar to the CARES Act last year, they put this out and then the Treasury Department took time issuing directives, and the State Board of Accounts has already said a couple of things, but they haven't really said everything about it yet. We do know that this is different than the CARES Act, whereas with the CARES Act we had to apply for reimbursement for things, whereas this money is just, here it is, here's your your stimulus money. So we're getting 219,000 and some change for Clayton, and that's based on just our population. And so we'll get 50% of it sometime in May. The State Board of Accounts says we have to have a special fund for it to go in. So we have to create an account in our budget, and they gave us even a range of numbers that had to go on that budget item or that account item. And so we have to create this account and by ordinance. And then I had understood that there were two ordinances that you would create, one to create the fund and then the other one on how to spend it. The way Graham is looking at it, he said all of it is supposed to be in the one ordinance. Is that what?
Well, I don't know necessarily. The directive that I saw from State Board of Accounts mentioned having a plan. So it occurred to me that, you know, it could be the case that we need that in place. Now, the timing of it was a little unclear. Did Dean ever weigh in on that question?
He never responded to our emails on that specific question. The two webinars, the way I interpreted it was you do an ordinance to create the account, and then when the money gets in the account, then you can create an ordinance on what are we going to spend it on. And they have kind of some very general ideas on what you can spend the money on, and then some very specific 3 things that you can't. Like, we can't spend this money to pay for somebody's pension. We can't spend this money to lower residents' taxes. There was one other one. I don't remember what the third one was, but anyway, they had these 3 things, which the third one on that I didn't think was relevant to us, but it was. So we're gonna get this money, we're gonna have to create an account, and then we're gonna have to say how we're spending it. And I like Graham's idea to, when we create our ordinance on how we're spending this, to keep it as general as possible so that it gives us some flexibility with what we're doing. But, you know, we can use it for infrastructure, broadband, we can use it for, you know, recouping any losses that we may have had. So if normally, like in 2019, if we made, I don't know, $10,000 renting our facilities at the park, say, and then in 2020, we only made $400 renting our facilities at the park, then we could say we're going to reimburse ourselves for that loss with this money. So that money could be moved into whatever account, or as long as we can show that that was a loss that we actually had, kind of a thing. But we have some time to work through that and figure out where we want to use that money for. So, any specific questions from anybody else in the group?
Glad we got it.
Yeah, it'll be, and like I said, we're gonna get half of it this year, so we get like 109,000 and some change this year, and then in like January of next year we'll get the other half. And this money has to be spent by 2024,
I think so.
December
I think
2024.
24.
So we have some time to even spend it with regards to that. All right, next item on the agenda, I have the AIM Medical Trust. I don't know how much everybody else has heard. Last month, we agreed as a town council to extend an offer to an individual for our town manager job. He turned that offer down. One of his reasons was lack of benefits or insurance, health insurance specifically. So I was kind of looking at all the different options, and it's kind of expensive to offer health insurance, but in a town our size, if we were offering insurance to just 1 or 2 employees, it's extremely expensive. Whereas other towns who have, 150, 200 employees, they are given a bigger discount because the insurance companies know they're going to make more money off of that size of the town with the employer stuff. So I found out that the AIM, our Accelerated Indiana Municipalities, they have put together a trust of medical coverage. So lots of little towns who are kind of suffering the same obstacle that we were, got together and formed this trust with the AIM group. And so basically you have this big bargaining power from them. So it, kind of reduces the cost of providing health insurance coverage. So I haven't gotten an official quote from them yet. In order to get the quote, you have to have 2 town employees who are interested in this. So I reached out to George and his wife. You guys still thinking that you want to look at that?
Possibly, I'm okay for right now, I'm just thinking future out, so, it depends on the cost.
I mean, technically, all I'm looking for is the ability to get the quote. So you can, after we get the quote, you can say no thanks,
yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
that's kinda what I
if
figured.
we can move forward
Yeah,
by,
just get an
we have
idea.
to submit some details about you and your wife. So who you are.
Yeah. Blood type. Yeah, blood type,
Interesting.
Let's just do that right now.
Well, and like in the town, we have to, we have to fill out this official form what our employee identification number or employer identification number is, and so we'll work with you over the next month
Yeah.
or so, get that information, submit it to the AIM Medical Trust, get a quote at least, and then we can know, at least for potentially budgeting for next year. This is all I was thinking. Anybody else have any other thoughts or questions on that? And I even brought it up to Kevin because their insurance company does provide health insurance kind of stuff. He said definitely go with the AIM Medical Trust. He said he wouldn't even be able to get anywhere close to that kind of a deal because his company would be looking at you're insuring one person, whereas if you're in this AIM Medical Trust, we just are going to fall into a group of thousands of people.
Right.
So, all right. Next on the agenda, digital GIS mapping. I sent everybody a quote last week, and then yesterday I got a second quote. They're very different quotes, so I'm not too sure what everybody thinks about this. But Pete and I were talking about things, and George might be interested in this as well because, well, the first company, when he talked about this, they can put all of our services onto a digital map. So we have the map of Clayton, and then we have different layers. So we could type in a search parameter and say we want to see all of our sewer collection pipes, and that would show up on there. And then we could type in even further, we want to see like our project that's going on right now. Say next year we want to see which pipes got the CCIP, the liner put in, and it would show, because we've put that information in, it'll show which pipes are already done, and then we can even include our asset management of, well, this is the next group of pipes that we're going to do the liner for. They can even do the same thing for the buildings out at the wastewater treatment plant, the tanks, all that. They can put in the storm drains, the storm pipes, the drainage ditches, whatever, anything that we want to put in there. Pete and Chief Oliphant and I went around town today looking at all our stop signs, speed limit signs. We can put information about those in there, so we can do a search parameter. And what the benefit really on what I'm thinking is, as Pete does maintenance or continues with town manager's responsibilities, if he sees changes, he can just go right onto that map and make the updates. And so then we know, from, for future reference, this is where the speed limit sign was supposed to be, or this is where we, had problems with a manhole cover, or whatever it might be.
We'll tell the age of whatever that is.
The
So
what?
like the sign was installed in 2021.
Right. Yeah, so if we had issues with, I don't know, somebody says that the reflectiveness, has gone off of the speed limit sign or something, we can, look at that and go, okay, yeah, that's a 10-year-old speed limit sign, so we can change that out with a newer one. And you can just put any amount of information we want about our town in that one.
Is that public access too?
No, the public, we could make it so the public could see it, but we would only want our town officials being able to edit it.
Yeah.
So it has real-time editing capability for a logged-in
User.
approved user.
Right.
So if Pete was, doing his different maintenance things, and he could just keep that updated with what was going on. We can even do zoning stuff. So like we've just recently changed zoning at 5029 Iowa Street for Mr. Lane to do. We switched it from R2 to R3. Pete can go on there and say, he can highlight that section and actually change it from zoning R2 to R3 on the computer. So I know like our zoning map in the office there is from 2011. So it's not updated with Penner's rezone, or even the fact that Mr. Penner's property got annexed in last year. That's not on our zoning map. So this map would do that. So and that's the first quote that I gave you guys. The second one was restricted just to sewer and manhole covers and wastewater treatment plant. It didn't expand out into those other things. So I was kind of disappointed that it didn't cover all those other assets or zoning and that kind of stuff. But so those are just quotes that I wanted everybody to look at. Think about the options that could do for us, and like I said, we could have, both Pete and George could be, licensed, authorized, authors in that to update things. So as things change at the sewer plant, updates with the speed limit signs, whatever. Any other questions on that? So something to think about with that. I know there's if you go to that quote that I sent you, there's a link in there that you can click on. They show a demo of them with some 3-dimensional cameras in a wastewater treatment plant someplace where you can actually like walk around inside of the building on their video. Because you just click, it's like a Google Maps kind of thing. You just move forward and backward or upstairs.
Tank and check it out when it gets emptied out.
Right.
There you go.
Sounds exciting.
Hopefully, yeah, there shouldn't be any smell.
We could add that if we want.
I've heard from a lot of people that can't believe how it does not smell down there. Is this a sewer plant? It doesn't smell, how come?
All right, any other questions on the digital mapping? Thought it would be just something good to at least look at and talk about for something in the future. The next thing I have on here is Hendricks County's multi-hazard mitigation plan. Every so many years, the Emergency Management Agency updates their, we used to call this the disaster plan. So Hendricks County has this disaster plan in place, multi-hazard mitigation plan. They're offering us the option of adopting this to the town of Clayton as well. So basically we would, adopt it through resolution saying we want to apply these same features in the town of Clayton. And according to the EMA director, what that would help with is in the future, if a tornado came right down 39, FEMA funds would be easier to get a hold of because we have this multi-hazard mitigation plan. It just involves taking the plan that they've published, and then we would change the name from Hendricks County to Clayton's mitigation plan, and then adopt it, like I said, through resolution. So they had work groups, I guess, or something. I participated up there at the fairgrounds last summer. So we sat, in these round table discussions and talked about, all the different things, droughts and floods and tornadoes, stuff. So I don't know. Have you guys seen that? You were there also, and I don't know if you guys all both looked at that and
Makes it easier responding to stuff. It's the same as the county versus the town, for sure.
It's more uniform.
Yeah. Anytime you can make it all the same, it's easier.
all right. Does anybody have any thoughts on
It's kind of a
this thing? It's not gonna cost us anything. It's just simply like I said, we change the name and we say we as Clayton are participating in this, and are gonna do the same as what the county does.
That's a good idea.
Okay. Anybody have any objections to that? I'll work on typing that up with the changes and then bring it back next month, and we'll. Is it a resolution, Graham? Is that different than?
Basically the same process.
Okay. All right. One other thing that's not on here I wanted to address real quick before we go on to the other personnel. Pete and John Todd and John Coley have been working on some things down at the food pantry. After they put on the new roof, they noticed that is that a soffit? What's that called, Pete? The
Yeah,
side.
on the front porch on both sides, and the wood is rotted out and it needs replaced. And they also want some more lights for like towards the winter months to light up the sidewalk. So I guess that's what John Todd's for. And I thought, Mr. Stockwell was gonna bring you, an estimate.
He brought it to
Oh,
Jenny.
did he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you asked me, I hadn't seen it, but he
Oh.
brought it to Jenny. So he looked at the just replacing the two plywood ends. If you're standing in Kentucky Street looking at that, there's a shingled kind of slope on the front of the building. These are the end pieces of that, like the bookends of it, and they're both pretty old and rotten, and the paint is all peeled off, and it's so Chris is just gonna replace those. So he's gonna pull those off, put on some new ones, caulk it, and prevent water from getting in, and then prepare that and paint it. And his quote is $860. So. Does anybody have any questions on that? Or
Is that I'm sure that's probably the cheapest way to do it, but is that the best way to do it, to put wood back there? I mean, wouldn't we wanna try to put some, I don't know, aluminum siding or something on it so that it wouldn't rot again?
on that side there, I mean, it's kind of an odd shape. I don't know.
Yeah, it's.
Pete would
well,
be able
It
to.
could be done, I know what she's saying, it could be done. I guess we'd have to take a better look at the wood, see how bad the rot is, cause you could put siding over the existing wood.
How long
that's
has
there.
that been, how long has the rotted wood been there?
Oh, I wouldn't have any idea,
You don't know,
no.
I mean, I don't know if it's something that's like, well, every 5 years we're gonna be replacing that wood.
No,
Or-
no, I'm sure it wouldn't. No, it'd last longer than 5 years. But I see what you're saying, if you could put wood up there and then put vinyl siding over the top of that.
you keep it painted and maintained and caulked, it's gonna last 15, 20 years, I bet at least. Just putting wood back up
Yes.
there.
With the right paint.
If you don't paint it for 15 years, then it's gonna peel and water's gonna get into it and rot it out.
I'm guessing that wood's probably been there 30 years
Yeah.
or better.
Goes back to our asset management plan. We can include repainting in the asset management plan on
Schedules.
Yeah,
schedule of keeping it up.
It wouldn't hurt to ask Chris what it would cost to put vinyl siding over it, over and above what his estimate is, you know what I'm saying?
'Cause
It's
you're
not a
still
very
gonna have
big
to
area.
replace you're still gonna have to replace the plywood that's
Yes,
rotted.
yes.
You're just gonna put fresh, maybe some OSB or something up, then,
Yeah, you could go with cheaper wood if you put siding over it, yeah, you could put OSB up there. Cause plywood's out of sight right now.
I know, $300 is a bad price to do that.
All right. So do we want to go back and ask Chris to
Yeah.
change
yeah,
his
we can
quote?
do that.
Say instead of plywood, an OSB backing
Yeah.
with a vinyl
Yeah.
siding exterior?
That would
See what-
eliminate the painting,
Right.
you know, might have to power wash it every once in a while, we get some, you know.
And then did John give us an idea of the
On the electrical.
the lighting and stuff?
No, I think, Todd's, he hadn't brought it in, estimate yet.
No, he put in a thermostat at our house and he was trying to get ahold of John yesterday and I don't know whether he ever did or not.
Okay.
Cause he was gonna go down there and meet him, but I don't know that he got ahold of him.
Yeah, he still wants to come in and look at our wiring like we've asked for here. So when he comes in, we'll just he'll give us that. So I'm sure.
and we don't have to have 3 estimates on this.
We solicited 3, didn't we?
For the lighting issue,
Or
For-
what, the work down there at the siding.
not for the siding part. We asked for 3 for the new roof because I knew that was going to be a much higher cost. I mean, with this being under $1,000, I didn't necessarily. But I mean, we could.
You might have to if we do siding then,
Yeah.
if we look at siding,
Yeah.
cause that's gonna be over $1,000,
Okay.
so. If
So-
$1,000's cut off,
Yeah, I was just saying, if
Just as
if
long
it's
as we
under a
request
certain
it, doesn't
amount,
necessarily mean we have to get 3, but,
Request
yeah.
2 additional
Yeah.
quotes, independent quotes. So, Pete, if we could work on that in the next couple of weeks, get at least somebody else to say, here's what we would give for that,
Yeah.
or at least make the request.
yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll table that until next month so we can deal with those. All right, now Chief Oliphant, back to you again. If you have anything additional.
The only other thing that I have for tonight, we did establish 3 concert dates: May 22nd, July 31st, and September 25th. That's what we're looking at. So
July 31st and what?
May 22nd, July 31st, and September 25th. So anybody, anybody wants to think would want to play,
Yeah.
September.
let me know.
Oh, Gary Grubbs,
Yeah.
Okay.
definitely,
Yeah.
we gotta jump on that, cause he's good.
Is he?
And
Okay.
he lives right across the park from the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got his.
You just have to
contact.
walk over with us.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Works in his front yard.
So we're gonna work on maybe having some new food options or different food options too.
Okay,
Should be fun.
excellent.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, George.
Okay, so we have a issue with the building down there, that nice little wind we had came through and it played havoc with our gutter on the backside of the building. So it's pulled away about a couple inches, still up there, it knocked off the gutter downspout and a piece of the vinyl siding. So Pete and I was talking before, if he could probably knock it out, but just wanted to bring it up and make sure you guys were okay with him going in there and climbing up on the ladder and passing it all back up and doing some fun stuff to it.
Put camera on me in case it falls.
So, that's.
I know he fixed the gutter on this building really quick and easy,
Yeah.
so.
I think it just needs some tidying up, so
Okay,
go down there and knock it out for us. Second thing is I still need to get rid of the stuff that, we replaced. I got the fridge, the sampler, how we get rid of those excess items, and I think, Graham, you were gonna look into how I go about.
Yeah, can you put
Disposing
together
of it.
just like an itemized list of exactly what it is, and then we can declare it, no value, and then we can move forward with disposing
Okay.
it.
Just send you a note or something on it.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
I'll
shoot
do
an email.
In part of the cleanup I did down there, because they did the blowers and fixed those and stuff, so I cleaned out some old stuff that's been in there forever. I've got 3 old fire extinguishers. How do I dispose of those? Cause I would think, is that something I can just, Graham, just turn into the fire department?
Yeah,
Or
you can give them
would-
to us, we can get rid of them for you.
Just stop by and
Mhm.
get them off to somebody down there?
Yep.
And then, I was noticing and checking that, I have the fire extinguisher that hangs outside the building. I thought somebody come around and checked it, but it's out,
Pretty outdated.
dated, so I
They-
assume it still works, but next time you guys have somebody charge
See
it.
what the date on that one is around the corner, because they were here and they were supposed to come down to the sewer plant as soon as they left here.
It says June of 20.
So they should be here in June, they should have been there, they should have been down there in June because they charged me for it.
Okay. I'll double check, but I
Okay.
don't know that I've seen that.
Yeah, because they came here first and then they went down there and I got a bill.
I'll
for
verify and
both of
let you
them.
know.
Okay,
Okay. So we already have somebody, a service to do that?
yeah,
Okay.
Corson,
Of course.
yeah, they come every year and do it.
Okay. So then I'll just drop the 3 off down there at this place.
Okay. Sounds good.
And then we're having the, meeting on Wednesday. Are you gonna be jumping in on that phone call and having some more fun? That last one was 2 hours. I was like, this ain't ever gonna end. It was a long meeting.
yeah, and then, I got a phone call the next day from a guy down in Evansville. Said he was supposed to be doing some video of the plant, and I didn't recognize his name from any of the documents.
Yeah.
So I just took his information and forwarded it to Joe Tierney. Of course, they said he was mentioned, which I didn't remember hearing him being mentioned, but he's a subcontractor for, in situ form. So once he gets the information from them, he will show up down there at some point
Okay.
and he'll video the system apparently somehow. He does a pre-construction video that helps them document what they're doing, I guess. So
Got it.
I felt bad afterwards because I was very suspicious. Like,
Yeah.
I never heard of you, man. I'm not giving you any information. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, I guess he was supposed to get that information.
All right. That's it.
Okay, Chief Moffett, you got a
Yep, pretty slow month compared to February. We only did 40 runs. Good thing is the COVID's starting to taper down a lot, so we only had 1 COVID run confirmed for the month of March and then 1 for the previous month, February. So we're starting to like ease up on kind of our usage of like the APRs and all the, really advanced stuff we use, but we're still wearing masks on every run, like our cloth mask at least. And deconning, we have plenty of supplies and stuff, so let's see. Still have a fire class scheduled for June. That's about a 4 to 6 month class that we do in-house. We bought 2 used Tahoes off of Plainfield, so a silver one and a red one. So I'm driving a silver one, the assistant chief's in the red one, and then we're working to consolidate our we got a few older vehicles, trying to get them kind of stripped down and in the process of selling those and kind of redistributing the newer, older vehicles, if that makes sense. So, getting ready to buy some new fire gear. So we have a bunch that expired this year, so we're getting some new gear. Kind of reworked our organizational chart, so we created another captain spot and then promoted someone to a lieutenant. So not really big changes, but ambulance is still slated for fall, our new ambulance that's getting built. And our primary engine blew a head gasket, so it's out of service for, timeline's unknown, but we've already got it towed and diagnosed and everything like that, so they're already starting to get it fixed, so. That's about it. It's kind of busy in that aspect, but not really with runs. So. That's all I have.
And last summer, you guys got a grant from the National Volunteer Fire Service, or
It's like the Indiana Fire.
for the
Chiefs.
for the
Volunteer.
Indiana Volunteer Firefighters Association for the recruitment and retention of volunteers. How's that?
It's good. So they came and filmed 5 or 6 interviews a couple weeks ago, and so they use like a professional, like a marketing firm, I guess, and they want to come out and shoot some footage of us training and edit it and kind of give it back to us to use. We can put it on our social media pages and stuff like that, but it's just kind of really kind of spice things up for recruiting. And we've had some good, people apply. I had someone from Ohio call me today and wanting to apply, so I thought it's different, but I thought it's pretty cool that someone from 2 hours away wants to come here and be on the department. So I feel like we're reaching people. So it's going good. We have to report every month to them, how many people apply and things like that. So it's going well.
Great. Anybody else have any questions for Chief Moffett? Okay. I somehow skipped our snow removal policies. Steve, you're going to look up some information about we had talked about the differences, options with pre-treating versus after the snow is down, dropping salt or molasses or whatever we had. And so I didn't know, did you have a chance to look into that stuff for the snow removal policy?
I don't have the information compiled at this time.
Okay. All right, we can table that till next. Hopefully we won't have any snow between now and then.
It's your fault if we do.
And that way we can get that snow removal policy put together and formalized to help Pete out with next year's process, hopefully. Which, speaking of that, Pete and I have worked together on a couple of days. I don't know how much time we've been able to put into the town manager stuff for your role with that, but Pete's quickly getting up to speed. He has a town email address for town manager business. So,
Thanks, David.
what's that? Yeah, thanks to David. Pete .angrick@townofclayton.us. So if you have town manager business, you feel free to email him at that address. Did you have anything you wanted to talk about so far from your?
It's my first time back in a while.
Yeah.
Got a few things now that we went around and on the speed limit signs and all that, so I know how many posts we need. I'll be getting with Jenny tomorrow probably on that. And when you had the critter in the attic, remember that? I walked around the building and I found there were some holes in the soffits. I think that's where the old cameras had been.
Yeah,
But
probably.
that hole probably not no bigger than a thumb. I don't think a bird could get through that, do you?
No.
Now, in the peak up here, which our bucket truck won't reach it,
Oh, okay.
where that fancy woodwork is, right above here where it says town hall, I think there's an opening behind that woodwork
Yeah.
that I can't get to it with anything we've got. So, maybe Chad might let us, if he's over here doing trees or sometime, we could go up in his bucket, maybe spray some foam in there.
Okay. I noticed that when I was cleaning up with that, there was a dead mouse-eared bat up of the
He'd been there a while.
right. He's hanging off of that
Nobody
power electrical receptacle box. He's dead there. He's hanging it. But
What if they're coming in through the basement?
Well, you know, there is a hole cut in that door back there.
I know.
Somebody cut a hole in that door for something. I don't know what they
Yeah.
did.
Probably
That
put
for-
a hose. Put a
I think
hose
it was a
down.
hose for a sump pump maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I'll just keep my eye out for critters.
Sure.
We used to have a big hole back here, but I think that was fixed a while back. I don't know.
Well, there was a bat in
Is it coming down the chimney?
Well, they took the chimney off.
Oh, they did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the chimney's gone.
Hmm. I don't know.
But that's I do have a question. That new furnace they have out there. Do you replace filters in that from the outside? I know nothing about that
I
furnace
think so.
since they moved it outside, you know.
I didn't even know
The-
it was outside.
Two
Yeah.
times that I've called, because when that high pitched whine was going on, and I called that number that for the company, and it went straight to voicemail, and I left a message, and they have not called back, even though two different messages for me. So, but you probably know that furnace better than I do.
I'm
So,
gonna look around it
It's
a
a
little
heat
better and
pump, isn't
try
it?
to
It's-
find out where they go.
I think there might be something.
I mean, unless they're electronic filters, which I doubt that.
Yeah.
I doubt that.
I don't know. We have to investigate. Maybe we can try to call that company again and see what.
And I do have all the faucets changed in the shelter house, in the bathrooms, and in the main, where the kitchen's at. But the big sink, the stainless steel sink, that has like a professional type faucet on it, and I don't know where to get those at. I mean, you can take it loose.
Why you go, they might have it at the plumbing place up in Danville Central Supply.
Okay.
You can try that.
Yeah, off 36.
Yeah, try that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it can be replaced, you don't have to go into the wall or anything, it's just got two like nuts on there, you can take the whole thing off. And I'm sure it's worse.
Amazon has them too, I just looked at them.
You know what I'm talking about, Steve?
Yeah, I just looked at them
Yeah,
for the deep sink,
yeah,
probably the same.
cause this one's got a constant drip and I can't get it stopped, it needs replaced, it's probably the original, you know. But all the others have been replaced. And last year, Jenny, I put that, instant hot water heater in,
Mhm.
and done away with 50-gallon. Have you noticed the difference in the light bill? Or paint? No
I'm
difference?
paying attention. I just pay it.
I would've thought, you know, instead of heating 50 gallons all summer long, it would really help.
Seems to me like even all winter, it was like $30 to $40.
Well, that's not bad.
No,
Probably us, I'd like.
yeah,
They probably got a minimum then, don't they?
probably.
I have one thing to mention.
I've got 3 or 4.
All right, thank you, Pete. All right, anything else for
Is that here?
Dave? Does
I have
okay.
one thing. Since we talked about the pavement on Western, or the drainage on Western, I've noticed that since the school's been using the backside of the school to exit all their school buses, if you look at how they exit and they take the turn and head south on Western, the asphalt on that lane heading south is really starting to deteriorate. So I have to just kind of put one and one together, and get the fact that the weight of the buses on that pavement constantly with making a turn, the pavement's getting cracked pretty severely. So I just want to point that out so we know it's there. And I think it's the buses that are doing
Sorry,
it.
I'm not thinking of
Yeah,
things we dealt with at the school, the bus,
yeah.
asphalt has to be a lot bigger.
Yeah, it seems like Western and York would definitely be high on our list. Hopefully, anyway, when HWC does their assessment on our pavement. And this
Well,
could be-
Western was repaved it's been 10 years ago, but I mean, it was repaved within the last decade.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't put a number on the year.
If you looked at doing, that'd be nice to add sidewalks.
they'll have to resurface it.
If they redo it, it'd be nice to have
V out of
sidewalks,
it.
Yeah.
curbs and sidewalks.
Definitely.
There's,
Yeah.
it's supposed to have been on the south side, the west side of Western, was where the sidewalks were supposed to be.
If you're gonna redo the drainage, it'd be time to do it.
Yeah.
Sidewalks and curbs.
And with the way the community crossing matching grants work, you can't do a sidewalk without redoing the street. So that you wouldn't be able to say, we wanna do a sidewalk over here on this if we're not gonna repave it, but it'll work if you repave that section of the street and then say, put in a sidewalk along with it.
Yeah.
And then address the storm drains at the same time. Very good. Alright, Jenny?
I had someone wanted to know if we're gonna have a trash pickup day this year. We didn't have one last year, I think because of COVID, but we do have money in the budget for it. We usually do it in June, don't we? So you might be thinking about that.
I know we've had challenges with that. I know last year, after hours, after we left the trash cans unattended, people threw in stuff that were known
We're
as
supposed to go in there.
yeah, they were hazardous things according to Ray's. So we'd have to come up with some plan to, I don't know, if maybe we can arrange Ray's to drop the dumpsters off and pick them up the same day, or
Yeah,
if that's
John's usually the one
doable.
that checks with them.
We also, I think that if people are going to bring trash to those, that they're responsible for lifting the items out of their truck or trailer or those kinds of things. Because some people brought some really gross stuff that they expected Steve to pick it all up and haul it over there. So I think that would be okay to stipulate that whoever's, if you're dropping stuff off, you're gonna toss it in the pile yourself.
And then, there's a pothole on 500 as soon as you turn to go toward Amo that she said her car almost will go into, so you might wanna look at that.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so are they gonna put cold patch in it like they used to do it, or are they gonna have it cut out like they've done like the last time?
That one's pretty bad. I think it might be cut out.
Yeah. And that cold stuff only lasts about.
It's temporary,
season,
yeah.
and it comes back out.
Well, you might put some cold patch in it, and then, isn't, Wallace coming out for something, sidewalks or something?
Yes, so they have,
Maybe they could fix it when they come out.
yeah, they have a sidewalk on Iowa from Tennessee, like 60 feet north that they're gonna redo, and then they have 360 feet of sidewalk over here on Cross Street, which I know they're still parking on that
They are. Yeah.
sidewalk.
I know.
Because we're gonna redo it, I'd like for them not to
Once we redo it,
park on the sidewalk.
we'll have to ticket them and take
Um,
it in
And then,
When we redid this one on Kentucky, they stopped parking on it, I noticed.
oh, that's good. And then they're gonna mill and patch some miscellaneous areas, maybe we can ask them to add that.
So, you want me to try to get some cold patch tomorrow then, and cold patch it to
There's
start with, or?
I mean, they're supposed to be, Wallace Construction is supposed to be out either mid to late April, so
Yeah,
if, I mean,
I'll wait.
if we can manage until then, I don't know how much your coal patch stuff is, but
Danville has like this rock chip stuff that they're putting in all the potholes now. That seems to work pretty good. I don't know where they get it from.
Oh, like when they mill the street?
Kind of. Looks like gravel, kind of, but it's
Yeah.
solid. I don't know. It works pretty good, I feel like. It's sticking better than that black stuff.
And then Judy needs some gravel down there where they did her driveway last year where they went underneath, and it's
Judy
fallen.
McCoy?
Yeah, it's fallen. And the 811 guy brought a big banner for us to hang, he wanted to know if we would hang it out there on the thing. I said I would check and make sure.
Always put on our sign.
The interesting thing about this 811 service, so earlier, or probably mid-March, they contacted Ryan Rash, since he was listed as the emergency contact, after hours, saying they had an emergency. So Ryan forwarded it to me via email. And then, so I contacted them, said we need to update this list because Ryan Rash isn't here anymore, Dan Slattery isn't here anymore, so on and so forth, right? So she sent me an email with this packet full of, all these things we had to fill out. So I filled all that out and emailed it back to them. And then this guy calls today saying, hey, I'm your representative. I just talked to Dan and he said he doesn't work there anymore. So I said, yeah, that's what I said in my big email attachment that I sent to your company. He said, oh, I didn't get that. And then he said, so what company are you using to locate all your utilities? I said, we don't use a company. People call 811 and you guys do it. He said, no, we don't do that. He says, we refer them back to the municipality. I said, well, that's not what's been happening. Because a lady in Gilbert Woods last week called 811. She wants to put up a privacy fence. So she called them. They sent out somebody to locate things. And then they sent me an email saying that they had done that and they didn't locate any utilities on our property. So, okay, good, great. So I told him that and he said, oh no, you're supposed to have hired somebody to go do that.
Apply for the sewer.
I told him we had Mason Private Locating that did some sewer work for us, but I said, if we call 811, they send somebody out to see if the.
They
Right.
do, but like for Danville though, they
Well-
locate the water. The town locates the water and sewer.
I don't know. Because
We've never sent anybody out when they've called 811 to locate water or sewer. I mean,
Right.
there isn't any water to locate the sewer.
when I had my hot tub put in, I called 811, said I'm gonna be digging down, to put a pad for my hot tub. I want to make sure there's. And they sent somebody out.
Yeah.
They didn't.
And then he
Call.
asked me how many do you pay for a month? And I'm thinking, well, can't you look that up in the system and see how many that you charge us for? I said quarterly, probably 19 or 20. You wrote that down.
So we
They
do
send
pay
us
somebody.
yeah,
They send us a
They
bill,
send us a quarterly bill for
Oh.
the 811s that they come out and locate.
but that's 811 that charges us.
Mm-hmm.
So they're.
Hmm.
So then they're sending a contractor out to do that.
Mm-hmm. And then they charge us like 95 cents every time they send somebody out, 95 cents.
Oh, I was confused. I didn't know what he was talking. I mean, he seems to think that we as a municipality have a contract with some
Yeah, I
Company
don't know, we don't have a
who
contract
comes
with
to do
anybody.
those things for us when we ask them.
That makes no sense. They're the ones we call.
I know, and I said, if a resident or a business owner calls 811, somebody shows up and does that, but nobody from this office.
No.
Is
Sets
anybody
that
marking?
up.
Is anybody actually marking the sewer though?
When the person that comes out from 811 marks it,
The sewer?
they put the little,
Yeah,
they gave
when
us a
I-
thing that shows all the different flag colors, what they mean.
Right, I had a orange and red flag put in my yard when I asked.
Maybe
for-
that's what they're charging you for then.
Yeah, I think that's what they're charging
It's
us,
for
but
the
he
marking
didn't
the
act
sewer.
like, he just didn't act like.
Because
he
they
was
shouldn't be
talking
charging
about.
you for anything else. So I bet that's what it is. They're charging.
Well, and I don't mind that they're charging us for a service like that. I just thought it was weird that he's saying we're the ones calling somebody in to do this, and I said no,
No.
we
we're
don't.
not. Uh-uh.
Unless some, I mean,
So do you want me to
one
hang
of the
that
rest of
banner
yours.
up on the porch or not?
you want to put it on the porch?
That's what you
Can
wanna know, would we hang it on
We
the
all
porch?
run through it as we escape the boom.
I say we just put it on the sign like you
Yeah, I was
said.
gonna say, I think a little
Sign
better.
we have.
Yeah.
So we put the information that's on that banner onto our electronic sign.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's.
It wouldn't look
that'd
as
be
We can do
just-
that.
Yeah.
I can figure
We
out. how
need
to
to
do
probably
it.
put the dates for the concert.
Of course, I spelled visit wrong for how many weeks was that up there before some guy came by and said, How do you spell
He said,
visit?
how do you spell visit? And I said, V-I-S-I-T. And he
Said I shortened it for space on the sign. He knew it.
How I spell it or how do you spell it?
Yeah,
This is Clayton.
I didn't realize I had spelled it.
and we'll put the dates of the
Yeah,
thing down on there too.
yeah.
You know, I had my driveway done, client called Dig Dug, 811 whatever. They came out, then the guy that did the concrete called them again, and they came back the second time and marked the exact same spots that they just marked.
So
And
that
they
cost
have
us, that cost us $1.
They have to do it, or they're responsible if they hit
$1.90.
something. 'Cause
Right.
I'm like, why?
Which, when I looked back, the lady in Gilbert Woods, she didn't actually make the phone call. The contractor who's putting the fence in actually made the phone call, which I was fine with that. It got taken care of.
They have to, because they're responsible, so
Right.
they have to know.
Yeah. So that took care of the problem, but I just thought I got more confused talking to the guy than
It sounds confusing.
anything else for the good of the order. Okay, do I have a consensus to adjourn?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, meeting adjourned, 9:01.